For over a decade, Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz brought the thrill of picking to tens of millions of homes through American pickers. Their on-screen chemistry made them household names, but behind the scenes, a extraordinary story turned into unfolding now. After years of silence. Following Frank's tragic passing, Mike has finally opened up approximately what absolutely came about among them. What did he say? Allows find out the origins of a dynamic duo for over a decade. Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz were the faces of American pickers, a display that grew to become a gap hobby into mainstream entertainment. Viewers tuned in week after week to look at the duo tour throughout America, digging via barns, garages, and garage devices in search of hidden treasures. Their chemistry, humor, and deep understanding of antiques made them family names, but behind the curtain, matters were no longer continually as easy as they regarded. Whilst enthusiasts loved their on-screen friendship, cracks sooner or later commenced to reveal. Leading to Frank's departure from the show in 2021, the silence that observed left lovers wondering what truly occurred among them now. Mike has ultimately damaged that silence. However, before we reveal what he said, allow us take a more in-depth take a look at their tale. How they met, how they constructed their empire, and the way it all unraveled. Mike changed into born on June 11, 1964 in Joliet, Illinois, but spent most of his childhood in Bondorf, Iowa, raised by using a unmarried mom. He discovered independence early in existence, unlike maximum youngsters who played with toys. Mike became curious about discarded objects at simply 6 years vintage. He made his first pick out while he spotted an antique bicycle in a neighbor's trash and delivered it domestic. This single moment ignited his passion for salvaging forgotten treasures, an obsession that could form his complete profession. Frank, born on October 1965 in Davenport, Iowa, had a further humble upbringing. He additionally grew up in an unmarried figure family and observed consolation in accumulating things as an infant. He started with rocks and beer cans, but his passion quickly extended to vintage motorcycles and memorabilia, not like Mike, who dove into the arena of picking at an early age. Frank took an exceptional course before completely embracing the antique world. The duo first met whilst attending pseudo-intermediate school in Davenport. Although they were not immediately quality buddies, they bonded over their shared pastimes. By the point they reached high school at Bendorf, their friendship had deepened. Weekend journeys to storage income and flea markets became a subculture. Their exhilaration over discovering hidden gems turned into the inspiration of a lifelong partnership. Even after high faculty, they remained near, although their careers initially took them in one-of-a-kind guidelines. Earlier than becoming a TV big name, Mike pursued a career within the bicycle enterprise. He worked as a competitive cyclist and later opened a series of motorcycle shops, but his actual passion remained. In 2000, he took a leap of faith and based antique archaeology in Lear, Iowa, a shop wherein he may want to sell his excellent fins. Frank took an extraordinary route. He spent over 25 years working as a fireplace and safety inspector. However, even at the same time as running full-time, he in no way abandoned his love for amassing. He have become an professional in unique vintage gadgets, specifically antique oil cans. Gas station memorabilia. Subsequently, he left his stable career to recognition entirely on antiques, commencing his own shop, Frank Fritz Finds, in Savannah, Illinois. By using the early 2000s, Mike noticed capacity in turning their choosing adventures into something bigger. He anticipated a TV show that would spotlight the thrill of the hunt, locating forgotten treasures, and giving them new life after pitching the idea to more than one networks. The History Channel in the end picked it up in January 2010. American Pickers premiered, and its speedy have become a success. The show observed Mike and Frank because they traveled throughout the United States, meeting collectors, negotiating offers, and uncovering outstanding artifacts. What made the show unique wasn't simply the antiques, it changed into their dynamic. Mike turned into the charismatic deal maker, whilst Frank became the relatable everyman. cracking jokes and providing deep understanding on niche collectibles. Their contrasting personalities made the display achievement, and soon they have been two of the maximum recognizable figures in fact television for years. Lovers believed that Mike and Frank had the suitable friendship. They joked, argued, and labored together like brothers, but behind the curtain, things were not usually as smooth as they appeared. Over time, subtle tensions began to emerge, even as Mike was visible as the face of the display. Frank every so often felt overshadowed. He had a devoted fan base that favored his deep understanding and humorous personality. However, he became never given the same stage of reputation as Mike. Then in 2020, matters took a turn. Frank underwent most important lower back surgical operation and took day off from filming at the same time as enthusiasts assumed he could go back. Months handed and not using a signal of him. In 2021, the news broke. Frank turned into formally off the display, and the History Channel had no plans to convey him back. The surprising elimination of Frank from the series sparked outrage amongst enthusiasts. Many blamed Mike for no longer supporting his longtime buddy. Social media exploded with needs for an explanation. However, for a long time, Mike remained silent. Frank, but did talk out. In a candid interview, he admitted that he hadn't spoken to Mike in years. He found out that he had been struggling with health problems and felt abandoned. With the aid of his vintage pal lovers, who had as soon as cherished their on-display camaraderie, now saw a darker side to their dating, but changed into it. Certainly that simple. Was Mike actually the villain in this story? The evolution of their friendship. When Mike got here, up with the concept for American Pickers, he knew Frank turned into the best companion to deliver the vision to lifestyles. Their chemistry was plain, and their years of experience together made their interactions on screen feel authentic. But by means of 2021, their friendship had deteriorated to the factor where Frank publicly admitted they hadn't spoken in 2 years after American Pickers debuted at the History. In January 2010, it quick became a success. Audiences cherished looking Mike and Frank journey the United States, uncovering forgotten treasures and interacting with fascinating creditors. Their contrasting personalities made the show compelling. Mike changed into the herbal salesman, constantly keen to strike a deal. His high-strength technique and charisma made him the display's unofficial frontman. Frank, on the other hand, performed a extra late-again knowledgeable position. He specialized in smaller collectibles like oil cans, vintage toys, and motorcycles, bringing a deep level of understanding to their reveals for years. Their method labored perfectly. Viewers believed in their friendship and loved their humorous banter. The show wasn't pretty much antiques. It changed into approximately the people they met and the bond they shared, yet backstage things weren't constantly as seamless as they regarded. As American Pickers became extra successful, lovers commenced noticing subtle shifts. Mike appeared to take a bigger role in the show's branding and marketing at the same time as Frank became featured less often. Some counseled that their dynamic became converting. However, neither addressed the rumors publicly. Then in 2020, Frank took a break from the display because of health troubles. He underwent principal lower back surgical operation and targeted on his war with Crohn's ailment, a condition he had suffered from for years before everything enthusiasts assumed he might return as soon as he recovered. But as months handed, his absence became more regarding. In 2021, History Channel showed that Frank could not be returning. To the show, human beings desired solutions. Why changed into Frank gone become? He fired. Had his friendship with Mike fallen apart? Frank eventually broke his silence in July 2021, revealing that he and Mike hadn't spoken in over 2 years. In an interview, Frank made it clean that his departure wasn't just about his fitness, it was about his deteriorating courting with Mike. His words greatly surprised lovers who had assumed their friendship became as sturdy off-screen because it turned into on-display screen. Frank additionally counseled that Mike had taken over the show's direction, pushing him to the sidelines. Frank's comments painted a photograph of a partnership that had turned out to be one-sided. Many lovers sided with Frank, believing he had been pushed out of the display unfairly, but Mike remained silent. The aftermath and fan reactions, the departure of Frank Fritz from American Pickers in 2012 marked a turning point for the long-strolling History Channel series. For over a decade, Frank had been an critical part of the show's allure, bringing humor, deep information of collectibles, and an everyman appeal that balanced out Mike's enterprise-driven character. But when Frank disappeared from the collection following health problems, and changed into later confirmed to be completely off the display fanatics, had been left reeling. The reaction was instantaneous outrage, confusion, and unhappiness flooded social media. What accompanied became a dramatic shift in the display's dynamic, one which the manufacturers and Mike himself attempted to navigate as excellent they might. However, because the months passed, it had become clear that American Pickers turned into now not the identical without Frank after his exit. The manufacturers of American Pickers had a preference reshape the display around Mike because the undisputed star or carry in a new dynamic that could update the chemistry the duo had constructed over 21 seasons. They chose to introduce new routine co-hosts, on the whole Mike's younger brother Robbie Wolfe and vintage expert Jersey John at the side of Danielle Colby taking on a greater active position, even as these adjustments made feel on paper enthusiasts were not satisfied. Robbie had made occasional appearances in advance seasons, but he lacked the quirky character that had made Frank so cherished. American Pickers had constantly thrived on the contrast between its leads. Mike was the sleek businessman, even as Frank changed into the hard around the edges collector with an eye fixed for nostalgia. Without that dynamic, the display's tone shifted, feeling less like a street trip among buddies and greater like a traditional antiques business from the first actual episode. Without Frank, viewer reactions were brutal. Many longtime fanatics voiced their discontent, criticizing the new layout for feeling compelled and unnatural. The absence of Frank becomes simple, and the chemistry among Mike and his new co-hosts truly failed to fit what had come before. The most passionate responses got here from loyal enthusiasts of Frank who noticed his departure as unfair and pointless. Many believed he had been pushed out of the collection because of at the back of the scenes tensions. In place of a herbal progression of events, social media speedy have become a battleground. With hundreds of remarks disturbing Frank's go-back, fans commenced flooding the display's reputable pages with lawsuits. One